Welcome to Ashley, everyone. This morning with me, I have Dr. Ashley. And if you hear me call her Ashley throughout the rest of the interview, that's what I'm going to do. And she is a children's book author. And we're just going to have a natural conversation like we always do. And then we will just see where it goes. And so, welcome, Ashley.
Thank you, Win. I'm so excited to be with you.
And Ashley, could you please explain to my fan base more about what you do?
Of course. So it's funny because when had you asked me a couple years ago, what would you be doing, in 2020? I don't think any of us would have nailed 2020 and what's really happening right now. But I've been trained as a criminologist. So I actually have my PhD in criminology and I work with the families of homicide and sexual assault survivors. And so I've been very blessed to be able to meet some incredible human beings who have been through the unthinkable. And I had no idea as a scholar and as a professor that working with these families and seeing their resilience and hope would actually translate to giving me the same kind of resilience and hope that I needed in my own life. In 2018, my husband, who was 44 at the time, and I was 34 with a 4-year old daughter, he actually passed away in our home from a pulmonary embolism. And my
I'm
daughter, it was horrible when my daughter and I witnessed his death in our home. Um,
I'm
Unbelievable. And in that moment, my world fell apart. And I think with any kind of trauma, right, you're kind of lost of where to go. And so for me, I was able to fall back on some of these things that I didn't feel them, but I knew them, right? Things like how to get help for my daughter and I, how to, how to try to function through the motions. And one of the things I had told my families was the old life that we want back so badly, right before trauma, it doesn't exist. And so I would always encourage families, find your passion, find something new, a gift to yourself, something new that you want to pursue, right? Or something that you haven't done in a really long time so that you can create new traditions, new memories. And for me, when I thought about that, right, I had a dear friend who said, Ashley, you should start creative writing and kind of take a break from the normal monotony. And so I did. And when that's kind of how my children's book, it's my first published book, got to come about, because it's called The Girl Who Dances with Skeletons, My Friend Fresno. And it's a children's book geared towards little ones and teaching them about the power of differences. And that if we are brave enough to try to get to know and understand people's differences, that it makes the world so much better.
yeah.
It's, yeah.
Yes, you're now speaking my language. You're now speaking my language. And yeah, and Ashley's going to send me a e-copy, you guys. So I'm going to see this book. But you're now speaking my language. Now, how old, if you don't mind me asking, how old is your daughter now?
Yeah, so she's 6 now, and I will tell you, so she was 4 when her daddy passed away, and
Yeah.
she's 6 now. It's remarkable how resilient that baby girl is, for a lot of reasons, right? We have days. Anyone who tells you there aren't days that feel like you're
Oh,
walking through hell, you know?
anyone that tells you, and I've been through it twice, you guys. I lost, well, for a moment there, I thought my dad was coming home, but no, when I realized how, when it clicked in my brain how bad my dad's lung cancer was, I'm like, he's not coming home, and my stepmom was trying to be the optimist, and she's like, I'm not leaving him. I'm not leaving him. Finally, they transferred him to a rehab center, which he had a hissy fit. One of the things he said to my stepmom is, if you don't get me out of here, they're going to let me die. And so, I was able to see him 24 hours before he died. But I remember walking out I said to him, I'm going I I said to him, I'm going home to get respite, to figure out what the next move is going to be. And I, but the last words I said is, I love you. And he was able to say a weak, I love you. And that was, the last words he and I spoke. By the time May 19th hit, my phone rang at 4:45 a.m. with the rehab center calling me because I was on his contact list. I was such a dummy. I didn't pick up the phone. I
You
hear
can't,
my
don't
phone
do that.
ringing, and then and then I eight by 8 a.m. I was screaming at the top of my lungs to a good friend who was my aide, and she just looks at me like, "Woman, you're crazy." And I said, "I need to find my dad. I need to find my dad. I need to find my dad." Well, by 10 a.m., we knew exactly what happened, and he died of medical malpractice slash organ failure.
Oh, when I'm so sorry. It really does. The moment when you said that you were trying to figure out what to do, it's like you're lost in this impossible riddle of what am I supposed to do, right? How do you move forward with this? And I think
Yes,
one of the things that really saved us were two things. One, I immediately knew I could not grieve by myself. And so I knew that
yeah,
once I lost, my husband, that I needed to get professional support and help. And I also knew Reagan needed it. And the other
true.
thing that yeah, right, it was wonderful.
And I said to my stepmom on the way down, on the way down to see my dad in Denver, I need to see someone who's professional. She didn't believe me. Finally, it got to the point where I got so angry at her the day she constantly yelled at me. She goes, "You need to go see a counselor." I'm like, "I told you."
I told you.
Yeah,
Told you.
I sat there like, "I told you,
Yeah,
you,"
yeah. It's impossible to grieve it by yourself when I mean,
and
it is, and it's
and I almost said to her, "I told you." Now in the complex of me, of you getting mad at me for something I did because you didn't support me, and and she's like, "You need to go see a counselor," and a friend witnessed all this, and she's I was so scared of her yelling at me. When I looked at my friend actually walked me through the steps of, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to call your insurance to
Mhm.
see if it covered. We're going to then I am going to go pick up the paperwork for you so you don't have to walk in there and go see scary counselor office,
Uh-huh. But it's
and
so
then
great, wasn't it so great?
yes,
Yeah,
yes, it
so great. And I'll tell
and
you the
I
other thing that you just hit on, the thing that jumped out at me too is the other thing that really saved me was saying, I need the space to grieve by myself, right? But I also need to make sure that my daughter sees
yeah,
the grief too, and that she and I are able to kind of be honest and open with each other because, right, there is sometimes we grieve so differently. So, like you were saying, stepmom grieved one way and you were grieving a different way. But I think to be transparent and honest about that and being comfortable with that, right? And saying, like, she might be upset when I'm not, and I might be upset when she's not. That was so amazing for us. And that's something I still work on, right? Because we still, how grief is, it doesn't just go away, right? It
no,
comes
it
back and forth.
doesn't go
So,
away. It
mhm.
doesn't go away, and you guys, I'll go into more detail with this on Tuesday, but I'm in the process of selling this house that I'm in now, And so I just looked at my condo, you guys, which makes me super excited, which um which makes me super excited that I will be able to live a life and not necessarily invested into a house. And
Yes.
it makes me super excited. So and that will help with the grieving at
Yeah.
going back to the grieving chapter. That will help with the grieving too.
Yeah, there was
Just
something for me about closing the door
moving
for
out of a little like closing the door on one chapter, moving out of a house, and then moving into a totally fresh start without the
yeah.
heebie-jeebies.
Yeah, and it's a
Because
new memories, and it's scary because you're saying, "We built memories here, and I'm gonna leave this space," but there's also such freedom and
yeah,
permission that once you physically lock that door, it's like those memories don't go away. They're in our hearts forever, but some
yeah,
of the trauma gets to go away, and we
yeah,
get to, like you said, live again, and I think there's such taboo with that and grief, right? Where there's this fear if I live again or if I'm happy again, that I'm somehow being disrespectful or forgetting the pain of saying goodbye to someone. But for me, right, like when I think about the little things that we've been able to do, like, get our home, or like you said, get your condo. For us, I wrote a children's book in the middle of grief, and it's for me, I go, that's because of the energy and the love and the memories and that I had. And so it's neat to give yourself permission to have that next chapter. I'm proud of you.
no, I'll take the 2 urns with me that, I'll take the 2 urns with me of both my parents, probably stick 1 in my office, probably probably stick my, dad in my office, and my mom in the kitchen. I'll
I love it.
put both of them together because, eh, it's I'll just take the 2 urns with me out of this
Mhm.
house, I mean, and stick them in the condo, but I am super excited to be literally closing the door on and not to say that the memories won't go away, not to say that I built memories there, but it's time for a fresh
Yeah.
start, and
Yeah, and
that
our hearts take them with you when those memories are coming with you. Mom will sit in the kitchen and you can talk to her about your recipes, and then dad can guide you through business in your office, right?
yeah.
The memories go with you. That's the magical thing about our
And
hearts,
my
I
dad
think.
was a solo entrepreneur anyway, so
Yeah.
he could, guide me through business in my office anyway. So, those memories will go with me. But I wanna ask you, what is your favorite book?
Ooh, my favorite book is gonna have to be The Wizard of Oz. It is my favorite book, my favorite musical, my favorite movie. I love that story. And everyone talks about on this philosophical level all the complicated things that The Wizard of Oz stands for. But to me, it's this story of always having in you everything you need if you just stop and believe it. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's the simple child message that comes out of that story. And for me, it's like I'd rather hear that story a million times and dissect it for the political issues and those types of things. For me, it's literally saying I can always go home, right? And home is my safe space, and everything I need, courage, intelligence, right? My heart, all of that's inside of me, whether I feel it or not in that moment, right? It's there. And so I just got to trust in myself. I got to believe in myself. I mean, thinking about like you said when your parents passed away or when my husband passed away, it feels like you have no foundation, and so you're kind of walking blind for a few minutes, but you got to believe, right? Like I had to believe I can rewrite a story, I can change my definition of success, right? I'm a professor, and I went, well, wait, what if I become a writer, right, and do something fun? And so I just love the story of the Wizard of Oz. It's just awesome. There's no place like home. And
Yeah.
we've got everything we need inside of us.
No, there's no place like home. And the
Mhm.
big lion had to put the bravery stick up and
Mhm.
overcome his fear. And so the Wizard of Oz, I love it.
I
And
love
so
it.
if your BFF had to write a book about you, what would the title be?
Oh. I'd say metamorphosis. This permission, I think it would be a story of the permission to change and to pursue new recreations of who you are, right? And to embrace change. I'm not good at that. I have never been good at that. But as life kind of hits me, I'm adapting and I'm giving myself more and more permission every time I confront a challenge, right? Of like, you know what? This is not what I would have asked for. I wish that life had turned out differently, but it didn't. And so take what you're given and blossom. And when that goes away, life is not bad. It just means now I've got to write a new chapter, right? So continuing to change. I think
Yeah.
metamorphosis, the story of Ashley Wellman.
And if you had to move and only take 5 things with you, and yes, your child can come, what would they be?
5 things with me. Hmm. Does Reagan
Including
count?
yes,
Okay, Reagan's coming. I'd
yes,
have to take my dog. So that's 2. I would say a set of bath bombs because I live in my bathtub. That's my peace, relaxation,
yeah,
um, winding down thing. I would take a journal with me to write, and
yeah.
I think I would take this sounds silly, but my other way of just getting emotions out and having a relaxing, enjoyable time is coloring. So maybe a set of
A colored
like
book?
color pencil. Yeah, yeah.
I might need a adult coloring book, you guys. I might
So good.
I I might need to sneak an adult coloring book into my new office because um I am coming to find out that adult coloring books are the big rage now.
Mhm. I'll take a kid's coloring book. It doesn't matter to me.
Oh,
Sometimes the adult
you
ones
take
stress me out.
the
Yeah.
you take a coloring book. You just take you just take a kid's coloring book and
Anything. Yeah.
and just boy, I love it. A kid's coloring book, adults coloring book. Yeah. So they say art. And I used to be an artist. I still have artwork that I did downstairs,
Oh,
and that will go into my office because they say art is the most relaxing thing you can do,
it
whether
really
it's
is.
or whether it's something else.
Yeah, performing arts, to me, the performing arts are, it's just a way to express yourself. You don't even have to be good at it,
Yeah.
And for me, it really was filling space in my darkest moments, filling space with writing, right? I love to sing and I love to paint those kinds of things, but writing let me escape and create
Yeah.
a world that I wanted and like just joy. That my children's book is just about simple joy of friendship and love and kindness. And to me, that's all I wanted to feel in those moments when I was scared and it was dark and these different things. So the way we get to create, right? And sometimes it's creating things that aren't present in your life and sometimes it's just, illustrating things that are present. So I love it. I can't wait. I got to go look up your art when.
Well, you gotta go find my art. If you guys just type in Lynn Charles, my full name, and an artwork, um, it will be on ImageKind, Redbubble, Fine Art America. I'm all over the place. So,
Yes.
yeah. So just enjoy. Enjoy my
What
books.
medium do you do? What medium do you do?
I I did I well that art that I'm speaking of is digital art. But my favorite medium in the whole wide world is believe it or not, is acrylics.
I love
And
acrylic.
um, I, I'm not the biggest fan of watercolor. I don't know why, but
Hard. That's why it's hard.
I love acrylics, and acrylics are easy for me to work, and they're less of a mess. So yes, that's one of my secret talents that I wouldn't get back to. As soon as I finish my journalism degree, you guys, I'm going to get back to acrylic painting just because I love it. I love it, and yeah, just because I love it. And so, Ashley, what is your morning routine?
Well, I've changed it, to be honest. I was
Yeah,
challenged by a friend to take a few moments in the morning to just exist, right? Because I'm a go, go, go type A, you
yeah,
know.
you sound like me. You'll
Yes.
go until you'll fall.
Yes, I'm all over the place, and so, for me, I was challenged to just take a moment, right? And so, I actually, instead of using my K-Cup, Keurig, I've
Yeah,
actually started using my French press and making myself stay put for 10, 20, 30 minutes, getting up a little bit earlier, and snuggling with Reagan, maybe watching a little bit of junk TV to start the day, and having a cup of my coffee. And then I can say, "Okay, you've had your time to kind of ground yourself and then get up and go." It used to be get up, brush your teeth, put your makeup on, get out of here. I'm loving quarantine because I don't have to do any of that.
yeah, I bet, I bet.
Yeah.
No, no, it's like quarantine. Slow down. I have surprise, and I apologize for the coughing attack, but surprise, I have learned how to slow down, and I'm a better person because of quarantine, because of COVID. I even though I've been working in this house for 5 months, but all in all, I'm happy as Graham
I think
recording
it's forced us to, it
the
has its,
podcast and doing all this stuff online.
yeah, it's forced us to slow down and we had to say no to things and we got a chance to kind of be with ourselves, which can be scary, but also really great. And so I've learned a lot about myself in quarantine. Some things I don't like and
Oh,
some
yeah.
things that, some things that I want to get better at. And then some things that I'm celebrating that I had no idea about.
So, Ashley, do you have any questions for me as we wrap this interview up?
Well, tell me this. I'm about to release my book and have it in hand in October. What was it like to hold your book and celebrate that you are officially out in the world as an author?
Now, as my latest book or my
Your
first book?
first one.
The
Your first
my
one.
first one. Well, when the and I still have a picture of it, and I should probably stick it up online. And know what I'm going to do, you guys. Once I get, because I don't have any copies right now, I gave them all away, and I promised my dad, believe it or not, that I would get copies. Um, because one of the last copies I gave to was to one of my dad's nurses who actually um, and this is so funny, but when I walked into the hospital to do one night of, well, it wasn't a night, it was an afternoon of respite care because my stepsister and stepmom were about to go nuts. And so I said, okay, I'll do one afternoon of respite care. I'll sit with them. I'll have dinner with them. We can, so you guys can just go out to dinner and collect your thoughts, and then we can figure out the next move. And of course, he wanted to go back to have a dinner with him and me, of course. And they're like, no, no way, no way. We spent way too much time in the hospital. But it's so funny because I'm not even halfway through the doorway of the hospital. He's in the shower. He calls my name from the shower. And this is a guy who's on oxygen, mind you, with undiagnosed lung cancer. We're trying to figure out what's wrong with him. And he calls my name halfway. I'm halfway in a doorway. He calls my name. He goes, Win? And I said, yes. And he's like, I missed you. Number one, he said, I missed you. And I'm like, oh boy. And I'm like, well, this is great. But the funny thing is, he goes, I want I want to introduce you to my nurse, Kathy. And I'm like, well, it's nice to meet you, Kathy. And she goes, when I actually phoned you online, I connected your last name to his last name, and you have a book, don't you? And I'm like, yeah, I do have a book. And so we started talking. She's like, well, I'm going into hospice care, but I'll buy your book off Amazon. I said, you know what? I have one copy at my house, and the when my stepsister and my stepmom went to pick my dad up, they delivered the book that Kathy and I talked about to Kathy, and I signed it. And so that's how my last book landed out the door. I'd be like, okay, you get a copy of my book for dealing with, because my dad was a grumpy puss. Dealing with a grumpy puss, you get a copy of my, and I haven't heard from her since, but she's like, I'm going into hospice care, and I'm studying to be a hospice nurse. And we talked about me being in journalism, which my dad was really proud of. And so I'm like, okay, the copy of the book is going to you because you deserve it from for doing um for doing the nursing thing with my dad. And now I just have to get more copies of my book. I just been so busy. Really I haven't really sat down and got the awesome copies of my book. Yes, but when I get to the new house, I will have the awesome copies of my book. But it's so funny where books can land up. So basically, when my book first came, I was in this room, which is happens to be my living room, and I had I they came in a small box, and I remember holding my book, and it was winter, so I had a big cable knit sweater on, and so I remember holding my book and thinking, I did this, and this is I didn't know writing one book about cerebral palsy would change my life. I didn't know that by I didn't know that a month later that people would want to interview me and get educated about cerebral palsy, let alone I started a podcast. I tried a YouTube show that was a disaster and a half because I literally had a fan tell me, "When I want to support you and watch your interviews, but I can't keep my laptop open." So then I decided, and then I went back to the drawing board, and I decided to do a podcast. Well, that podcast stuck for 10 years, and
That's
yeah,
amazing. Oh, it's crazy where writing can take us. I got the proof so far, and the books. My first book's available for pre-order on my website, www.myfriendfresno.com, and the ebook is available now. But pre-orders are being taken now, and it's going to get shipped out in October. But it really is holding that in your hand and saying, "I did it." I remember people saying, like, "Ashley, what if it fails? Like, what if it doesn't pick up?" And I'm like, it
yeah.
can't fail. It can't fail. I'm holding it in my hands. Like,
It's so funny because at the time I was in a leadership course for not necessarily how to deal with a disability day to day, but how to live your dreams with a disability. And one of the things they had us do was at the end, they had us gather 11 of our friends and come up with a vision board and have the friends agree to what support us. And when I said I want to go back to school for the arts, I want to one of and this could be I want to jump on an airplane, travel for the first time. This could be I want to do anything. it doesn't have to be a disability related thing. It just had to deal with people with disabilities. So when I said to them, I want to go back to school for the arts, um, unbeknownst to me, my art was journalism, and I'm like, okay, I want to go back to school for the arts, and I that didn't that didn't bother people. Going back to school for the arts didn't bother people. But when I said I want to write a book and have it published, um, people just looked at me like I was crazy,
Mhm.
including my own dad, including my own dad. So gave myself a year, and by the time we had a reunion ceremony, I said, "Well, the book is at the editors. I'm going. Yeah. I people just people just about hit the ground when I said, well, the exciting news, and they said, have you accomplished your goal yet? And I said, the book is at the editors, and I'm like, people like, what? You actually wrote this book in a year? And I'm like, I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry because you guys doubted me. You guys
No.
doubted me.
And you were
And
probably in a nervous wreck because of that, and my new philosophy is just, if you have a dream, do it, and do it scared. It's never the right moment, right? If you just start it and do it, right? For me, it was the same way. I was like, I don't know. People say, like, "This is so difficult," and, like, and I go, "Yeah, it is, but it's also rewarding, and it's a dream of mine." And so if it is, jump in, do it scared, and give yourself permission to believe that, like Wizard of Oz, it's deep inside of you already. Just get it out.
exactly, no. And my mom gave she gave me the blessing to write a book. She was in a medically induced coma, and I had to talk her down out of a tree because her medical machines were beeping 1,000 miles a minute. Enough, and she was right by the nurses' station, and the nurses' station didn't give a flying rat's ass as to calm her down. And so I said, I love you, mom. I love you, mom. I love you, mom. I love you, mom. Over 1,000, over 100 times. And then after that, I was able to speak to her telepathically. And I said, well, since you're dying, can I write a book about how you raised a person with cerebral palsy and not medical heavy? And she goes, yes.
Yeah.
As her response was yes, as long as you don't make it a tell all book, and as long as you don't make it medical heavy so that people don't get the heebie jeebies, and then why don't you call it I win? And a lot of people know that she gave me the blessing, but a lot of people don't know she also gave me the title of that book. And that is a 10-year-old book now. So I Win was developed in the ICU at Swedish Medical Center in Denver, Colorado.
Wow. Oh
By
my
the time, by the
god.
time she she started to die. This was August 9th. By the time she died on August 12th, I was ready to get home and get starting to write. I just needed the support system to write. So was given the that's why I jumped at the chance to take this leadership workshop with disabilities. And because I'm like, this is a goal, this is something I always wanted to do. And then she goes, well, why don't you go back to journalism school too? Because I can tell this is something you want to educate people about cerebral palsy. And I'm like, okay, well, first of all, I'll write a book to support myself. But yeah, and then I'll go back to journalism school and I'm almost done my journalism degree, you guys. I'll be
Oh
done
my
in April
gosh.
2022 with a
Congratulations.
thank you, with my mass communications degree and journalism degree, and I'll ever be so happy. And even though even though I was in education for 13 years up until COVID hit, I hated education. I hated teaching. I hated education. Education and me do not mix. And as I was telling someone earlier, I um, I said, well, if I have to go back into a W-2 job, it will be anything but education. It will be anything but education, and particularly something in the creative arts. Because I love it. And they say if you have a job that you love, and when you go to work, you don't feel like you're going to work.
Mhm.
Nine
What a
to
testament to your mom and to your strength and your determination. I'm so proud of you. That's
nine
awesome.
a 9 to 5 job is perfectly fine for those who are cut out for 9 to 5 jobs, but not for me, thank you very much. I tried a 9 to 5 job. So
I think it's us creatives. We're not cut out to be in a little
yeah, no,
mold, right? We're too
we're,
we're too
we're
sporadic to be.
too sporadic. We're too sporadic. And the sad thing is, and I am setting up an interview with a person right now who wants to talk to me about do an interview with me. I found him in the podcast group for guest and host, and he said employment inclusion, and that's the topic I'm interviewing him on. And I'm like, we need to talk about employment inclusion now because of COVID, because the work life scenario has has totally gone on its head. I mean, those of us who are lucky enough to do work from home are one thing, but those of us who are older and still in the workforce are a little bit up in the creek without a paddle right now, because we need to start talking about employment inclusion and employment equity.
I cannot wait to hear that interview. That's gonna be
Oh,
phenomenal.
can't you can't wait. So, Ashley, where can people find you, and where can people get a hold of you if they choose to do so?
Well, I would love your listeners to follow the adventures of my friend Fresno and the girl who dances
Yes,
with skeleton, which is my
yes.
daughter. So it's she and her best friend, this posable skeleton. You can see their real relationship and the story by following us on social media at my friend Fresno. And like we were saying earlier, the ebook for international fans or even US fans, right, is available now on my website, www.myfriendfresno.com. And also the book, Plush Dolls, Puzzles, they're all available for pre-order and are going to be shipped out in October. So come visit our bone boutique at www.myfriendfresno.com and join our adventure. I cannot wait to share the message of inclusion and
No,
kindness
and
with everyone.
I can't wait to read it, and I can't wait to promote it for you, because you know me, inclusion is my middle name.
Well, when it's coming to you. So I can't wait for you to
Yeah,
read it and then give your
yeah.
fans
Well,
a,
it may be coming to a new address. It may be coming here. It may be coming to a new address, and just hold your horses, you guys, as just be patient with me now, and I'll go into more details on Tuesday. But just be patient with me. You guys have the shock of your life when you see how beautiful this condo is, and how beautiful my office is going to be. And I am super excited to be turning my I'm super excited to be on this wild adventure of doing it and actually living life for the first time in about, I don't know, a year.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
so
I
excited for
finally,
you.
so yeah. So and you guys you guys get to see a beautiful new house, a beautiful new condo. Pardon me, a beautiful, I have to get the terminology house out of the way. A
That's
beautiful
your
new
home,
condo.
though. Yeah, it's your
Um,
beautiful new
it's
home.
going, it's going to be my beautiful new home, and so we're going to have some fun, and we're going to, as long as you guys are patient with me, and just be aware that the podcast may may be stable, but it may be unstable in the middle of a move. But you guys understand the words move. So, but we're going to try and get it so it's stable. So, me stable, my work stable, and that's the next chapter. And I appreciate you guys for supporting me as long as you have. And I appreciate Ashley coming on and sharing her story, and go pick up a children's book. Go pick up anything you can for those kids and teach them about diversity and inclusion, and just be aware. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, be my guest, and literally be my guest, and reach out to me and talk about diversity and inclusion, and let's have fun, you guys. And I appreciate it, you guys. Thanks, you guys.